2. Coffee without sugar. Ethan Cole came to the bakery 3 days later. Sophie was carrying a tray of almond croissants when the bell above the door rang. She looked up, then nearly dropped the tray. He stood just inside Mason Rue, wearing a charcoal suit beneath a long black coat. His hair was still damp from the morning mist, and his expression suggested he had entered the wrong building but intended to make the building apologize. He looked completely out of place. Mason Rue was narrow, warm, and always slightly crowded. The tables were too close together. The chairs did not match. Old French posters covered one brick wall, and the ceiling fan made a clicking sound no one had repaired in 6 months. Ethan belonged somewhere with marble floors and people who called him sir, not beside a glass case filled with lemon tarts. Sophie placed the tray behind the counter. You are lost. Ethan glanced around. I was told this place sells coffee. So does every corner of Manhattan. This one was closer. To what? He looked at her. Sophie folded her arms. The university was 20 minutes away. His company headquarters was farther. Nothing important was close to Mason Rue. I had a meeting nearby, he said. You hesitated. I did not. You did. Do you interrogate every customer? Only suspicious ones. A smile almost appeared on his face. Almost. Sophie hated that she had already learned the difference between Ethan's real amusement and the polite expression he used for strangers. What can I get you? She asked. Coffee. What kind? Black. No milk? No. No sugar? No. No personality? His eyes narrowed. I was under the impression the insults were free. They are included with every order. She poured him a coffee and placed it on the counter. Ethan handed her a $50 note. Sophie stared at it. For 1 coffee? It is the smallest thing I have. That is possibly the most American sentence I have ever heard. I thought you came here because you admired America. I came here because the university accepted me. She pointed towards the card reader. Use that. He tapped his phone against the machine. Sophie handed him the cup. Ethan did not leave. He chose a small table near the window, removed his coat, and opened his laptop. Sophie watched him from behind the counter. Not openly. She was too disciplined for that. She watched him through reflections. The polished coffee machine showed the shape of his shoulders. The glass cake display caught the movement of his hands. The dark window revealed his face whenever he looked up, which he did too often. After 20 minutes, Ethan closed the laptop and left. His coffee remained on the table, half full. Sophie carried the cup to the sink. He did not like it? Camille asked. Camille was the morning supervisor, a thin woman from Lyon, who had lived in New York for 12 years and still spoke about the city as though she had arrived yesterday. He said nothing. That one does not look like a man who says nothing. Sophie poured the coffee away. He likes hearing himself speak. Camille glanced towards the door. He came to see you. He came for coffee. He left half. Perhaps he has commitment problems. Camille laughed. Sophie did not. Not because the joke was unfunny. Because the idea that Ethan had come to see her made something nervous move inside her chest. She ignored it. He returned the next morning. Same time. Different suit. Same black coffee. Sophie placed it in front of him. You did not finish yesterday's. It was cold. You allowed it to become cold. I was working. At a table made for 2 people. I did not realize furniture could feel rejected. You would be surprised what notices you. His gaze held hers for a moment. You noticed. Sophie looked away first. I notice wasted coffee. He carried the cup to the same table. Again, he left half. On the 3rd morning, Sophie gave him a smaller cup. Ethan looked at it. What is this? Your usual. This is not what I ordered. It is what you drink. I ordered a large. You abandoned half of it. I pay for all of it. That does not make the waste less offensive. Ethan placed both hands on the counter. Are you always this controlling? Sophie gave him a sweet smile. Only when I am helping. His eyes sharpened. She knew he remembered the rain. So did she. He leaned slightly closer. I thought help required permission. It does. You did not ask. You are free to refuse the coffee. Then give me the large. No. For several seconds, they stared at each other. Camille stood near the oven, pretending not to listen. Ethan finally took the smaller cup. I dislike you. You keep returning. I like the coffee. No, you do not. What makes you say that? You drink it as though it insulted your mother. A sound escaped him. Not quite laughter. It was low and brief, but real. Sophie became still. The sound changed his face. It made him seem younger, less guarded, more dangerous to her common sense. Ethan seemed to realize he had laughed. His expression closed again. He carried the coffee to his table. This time, he drank all of it. His visits became part of the morning. He arrived between 7:30 and 8, usually dressed for a meeting. Sometimes he carried a laptop. Sometimes only his phone. He always ordered black coffee. He never ordered food. Sophie began placing a small biscuit beside his cup without charging him. He never mentioned it. He always ate it. Their conversations remained short at first. Sharp little exchanges between customers. You are late, Sophie told him one morning. I was unaware we had an appointment. You usually arrive at 7:42. Ethan checked his watch. You have been tracking me. I track all repetitive problems. You should find a hobby. I have several. Correcting strangers is not a hobby. It can be. Another morning, he caught her staring at his tie. What is wrong with it? He asked. Nothing. You are making that face. What face? The one you made during my speech. I was wondering how much it cost. Why? To calculate how many months of my rent are hanging from your neck. Ethan looked down at the dark blue silk. It was a gift. From someone who wanted you strangled elegantly. He slowly raised his eyes. You are very confident for someone wearing flour on her cheek. Sophie wiped the wrong side of her face. Ethan lifted one finger and pointed. The other side. She wiped again. Still there. Are you enjoying this? A little. Sophie took a napkin and rubbed both cheeks. There. Now you look angry and clean. I preferred you when you did not laugh. No, you didn't. The certainty in his voice unsettled her. She turned towards the coffee machine before he could see it. Ethan began staying longer. At first, Sophie assumed he was working. Then she noticed that he often sat with the same page open for 20 minutes. Sometimes he watched people entering the bakery. Sometimes he watched her. He tried to hide it. He was not as good at hiding things as he believed. One quiet Thursday morning, Sophie carried a plate of croissants towards the window display. Ethan's gaze followed her. She placed the plate down and turned. Do you need something? No. Then stop looking at me like that. Like what? As though you are trying to decide whether to buy the building. I was looking at the menu. The menu is above my head. Exactly. Sophie glanced upwards. You have ordered the same drink for 2 weeks. I am considering change. That must be difficult for you. I manage change for a living. No, you manage other people while they experience change. He rested back in the chair. You have a theory about everything. I am French. It is a legal requirement. You are also in America. Yes, here, opinions require sponsorship. He shook his head. What? That sentence made no sense. It made perfect sense. You said opinions require sponsorship. They do. The richest opinion receives the largest microphone. That is cynical. That is marketing. Ethan closed his laptop. Do you ever stop arguing? Do you? I am not arguing. You are arguing about whether you argue. He stared at her. Sophie smiled. One coffee without sugar, she said. One conversation without victory. You should try both. I already drink without sugar. That explains your personality. This time, he laughed without trying to stop it. Camille looked over from the counter. Two elderly women near the door turned their heads. Ethan's laughter disappeared immediately. Sophie felt strangely protective of it, as though the sound belonged to something private between them. She did not understand why. The first time Ethan asked about her studies, Sophie was sitting at the end of the counter with 3 books open around her. The bakery had emptied after the breakfast rush. Rain pressed softly against the windows. Camille was downstairs checking a delivery, leaving Sophie alone in the shop. She had 20 minutes before the next rush. Her notebook was filled with arrows, crossed out sentences, and comments written in both English and French. Ethan entered without his usual coat. His sleeves were rolled to his forearms, and his tie was missing. Sophie looked at the clock. You are early. I had breakfast nearby. She glanced at him. With another bakery? With a client? Of course. She stood to make his coffee. He approached the counter and looked at the books. Comparative Education Policy, he read. Try not to sound frightened. I am wondering why anyone would voluntarily read that at 7 in the morning. Some of us enjoy learning. Some of us build companies. Some of us give speeches explaining why everyone else should work harder. He leaned against the counter. Are you still angry about that? I am not angry. You publicly challenged me. That was education. You called my argument incomplete. It was. Ethan looked at the notes. What are you researching? The effect of private investment on public education. His eyebrows rose. That sounds dangerous. It is. For private investors. For students. He picked up one of the printed articles. Sophie took it from his hand. Do not disturb the system. This is not a system. It is organized chaos. There are coffee stains on 3 pages. They are references. To what? My working conditions. He looked at the notebook again. Several words had been circled in red. You wrote American nonsense beside this paragraph. The author used 27 words to say poor schools receive less money. You counted. I suffered through every word. I deserved a number. He smiled. Then his gaze moved to a white envelope partly hidden beneath one of the books. The university logo was visible in the corner. Sophie placed her notebook over it. Too late. What is that? He asked. Nothing. It has a deadline printed in red. Americans enjoy making paper threatening. Sophie. The sound of her name changed the air. He had never used it before. Not directly. He had called her French girl once. Miss Laurent twice. Difficult several times. But not Sophie. She hated how naturally it fit his voice. She gathered the papers. You should drink your coffee. You have not made it. Then you should wait quietly. She turned towards the machine. Ethan reached past her and took the envelope. Sophie spun back. Give me that. He held it out of reach. Are you 12? Are you always this secretive? Are you always this rude? Yes. At least he was honest. Sophie reached for the letter. He stepped back and opened it. Her stomach tightened. Ethan. His eyes moved across the page. The amusement left his face. The university had introduced an additional international student program fee after restructuring part of Sophie's course. It included administrative charges, insurance adjustments, and a technology fee she had never requested. The total was $2,850. Payment was due in 11 days. Failure to pay could suspend her enrollment, which could also affect her scholarship and student status. Ethan read the letter twice. This is why you are working nights. I was working nights before. You cannot pay this. Sophie snatched the letter from his hand. That is not your concern. You will lose your place. I will find a solution. What solution? Another shift. A payment plan. I will speak to the university. The deadline is 11 days. I can read. Does your scholarship not cover it? They call it a supplemental fee. Apparently, supplemental means unexpected and insulting. Ethan looked angry. Not at her. At the paper. It should not have mattered, but some part of Sophie softened. She pushed it down. I will manage. You are studying full-time and working all night. Many people do. That does not make it sensible. It makes it necessary. What about your family? They cannot help. Lucas? Her head lifted. How do you know about Lucas? Ethan's expression changed by the smallest amount. Professor Adler mentioned your previous research work in Paris. He mentioned Lucas. He mentioned the foundation. You asked. I was making conversation. With my professor. It was a professional discussion. About my former boyfriend. I did not know he was your former boyfriend. You do now. The words came out more sharply than she intended. Ethan's jaw tightened. Can he help? No. Because he cannot, or because you will not ask? Both. He studied her for a long moment. You make receiving help unnecessarily difficult. And you make offering it unnecessarily insulting. I have not offered anything. You are thinking loudly. His eyes darkened. Sophie folded the letter and placed it in her bag. This conversation is finished. For you, perhaps. For both of us. Ethan stared at her. Then he collected his coat. You forgot your coffee, she said. I no longer want it. That is becoming a pattern. He left without replying. Sophie watched him disappear into the rain. Something uncomfortable remained inside her. Not guilt. She told herself it was not guilt. 2 mornings passed without Ethan. On the first, Sophie felt relieved. She worked without someone studying her from the window table. She completed 6 pages of research between customers. She did not have to think about expensive suits, rude questions, or a voice that made her name sound too intimate. On the second morning, his empty table annoyed her. She placed a cup beneath the coffee machine before realizing what she was doing. Camille noticed. Your rich American is late. He is not my rich American. Then why are you making his coffee? I am testing the machine. With no sugar. The machine is disciplined. Camille smiled and returned to the kitchen. Sophie poured the coffee away. She was not disappointed. She was tired. That was all. At noon, her phone vibrated. An email from the university bursar appeared on the screen. Your outstanding supplemental program balance has been settled through an emergency donor grant. No further action is required. Sophie read it twice. Then a third time. She had not applied for an emergency grant. She opened her student account. The balance showed 0. Under payment source, a code appeared. CH Foundation Support Allocation. Sophie stared at the letters. CH. Coal Horizon. Anger rose so quickly that her hands began to shake. She called the bursar's office. After 17 minutes of recorded music, a woman answered. Yes, the woman said. The payment came through an approved university donor fund. I did not approve it. You do not need to approve a grant. I refuse it. There was a pause. Most students do not refuse grants. I am not most students. The balance has already been cleared. Return it. That would restore the charge to your account. I understand. You would have 10 days remaining. I understand. The woman sighed. You will need to complete a rejection form. Send it. Sophie, are you certain? She looked towards the empty table by the window. Yes. Ethan returned the following morning. He walked in at 7:42 as though nothing had happened. Sophie was waiting. His coffee sat on the counter. Beside it lay the university confirmation that the payment had been reversed. Ethan removed his coat. You made the large. I thought you might need it. He noticed the paper. His expression became guarded. What is that? You know what it is. Sophie. I returned the money. His eyes moved to the confirmation. You should not have done that. You should not have paid it. It was a grant. It was your money. It came from a foundation. Your foundation. The university uses it for students facing unexpected costs. Students who apply. The application was unnecessary. You decided that. The deadline was close. So you used your name to remove the problem. You needed the fee paid. I needed time. You had 11 days. I needed the right to handle my own life. Several customers turned towards them. Sophie lowered her voice. You went behind my back. I made one phone call. That is exactly the problem. Ethan looked genuinely confused. You were in danger of losing your scholarship. And that frightened you. Yes. Why? The question stopped him. Sophie waited. He looked towards the window. Traffic passed outside. Somewhere in the kitchen, a tray struck metal. Finally, Ethan said, because it was unnecessary. That is not an answer. It is the only one you are getting. Sophie pushed the paper towards him. I am not one of your projects. Something crossed his face. It was fast, but she saw it. Hurt. Not anger. Not wounded pride. Something quieter. More human. I was trying to help, he said. His voice had changed. Sophie almost softened. Then she remembered the zero balance on her account. The decision made without her. The old familiar feeling of someone else stepping into her life and calling control protection. No, she said. You were trying to control the problem. Ethan went quiet. You think everything I do is about control. I think control is how you make fear look respectable. His eyes met hers. The anger returned, but it did not hide the hurt completely. You know very little about me. You keep saying that. Because you keep deciding what I am. And you keep deciding what I need. Neither moved. The coffee between them released a thin line of steam. Ethan looked down at it. I did not expect gratitude, he said. What did you expect? I expected you to remain at the university. I will. How? I will work. His jaw tightened. You cannot work every night. Watch me. That is not strength. No, it is my decision. He looked at her for a long time. Then he picked up the confirmation paper and folded it once, neatly, precisely, as though even anger had to obey him. You have made your point. I was not trying to win. Yes, you were. He left the coffee untouched and walked towards the door. Sophie watched him reach it. Ethan. He stopped but did not turn. She did not know why she had called his name. Perhaps because she had seen the hurt. Perhaps because she knew he had tried, in his own damaged way, to protect something that mattered to her. Perhaps because she did not want his absence to return to the table by the window. I do understand that you meant well, she said. His hand remained on the door. But meaning well does not give you permission. He looked back at her. The distance between them felt larger than the bakery. Then he nodded once. Understood. The bell rang as he left. Sophie stood behind the counter, listening to the sound fade. Camille appeared beside her. You returned nearly $3,000. Yes. Are you brave or foolish? I have not decided. Camille looked towards the window. And the man? He has not decided either. Ethan did not return for 4 days. Sophie worked. She studied. She met with the university and negotiated a temporary payment plan. It was terrible. The interest was unfair. The monthly payments would leave almost nothing after rent. But it was hers. On the 5th morning, the bell rang at 7:42. Sophie looked up. Ethan stood in the doorway. No suit. No tie. He wore dark jeans, a grey jumper, and an expression that seemed less protected without several $1,000s of tailoring around it. Sophie stared. You own normal clothes. I borrowed them. From someone with taste? Do you want me to leave? No. The answer came too quickly. His gaze changed. Sophie reached for a cup. The usual? Yes. She made the smaller coffee. He accepted it without complaint. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Ethan placed a folded paper on the counter. Sophie's body tensed. What is that? Nothing financial. That is exactly what a financial document would say. It is the address of a restaurant. She did not touch it. Why? I am asking you to have dinner with me. Sophie looked at him. You disappeared for 4 days. I was giving you space. You were angry. I can do 2 things at once. Why dinner? Because every conversation we have takes place while you are serving coffee or insulting me in public. I could insult you in a restaurant. I assumed you would. She tried not to smile. It failed. Ethan noticed. His expression softened. Dinner, he said again. No payments. No scholarships. No solutions. Sophie picked up the paper. The restaurant was one of the most expensive places in Manhattan. She looked at him. No. His face closed. Then she turned the paper over and wrote another address. A small family restaurant in Queens. She pushed it back. Tomorrow. 7:30. Ethan read the address. What is there? Food. Do they take reservations? They take people. He glanced up. Sophie folded her arms. One rule. Only one. We do not discuss money. Ethan looked at the cheap paper between his fingers, then at the woman who had returned his help, challenged his beliefs, and somehow made him cross Manhattan every morning for coffee he did not even like. Agreed, he said. He picked up his cup and walked towards the window table. Sophie watched him take the first sip. He made the smallest grimace. She smiled. You still hate the coffee. Ethan sat down. I never came for the coffee. This time, he did not look away.